All right.
Talk therapy. Sister, let's talk. Get ready for real, raw, and relevant information. We don't hold back. Topics from ministry, life, marriage, and everything in between. So, buckle up, hold on tight. Here are your hostesses, Tara and Melody. Talk therapy. Sister, let's talk.
All right. It is talk therapy. It is Tuesday. Is it the 12th already? Or the 11th? October the 12th?
It's the 13th.
It's the 13th. Wow. I am off.
You see, I had to look. It's the 13th.
I am off. Wow. It's Tuesday. Welcome to Talk Therapy, where our conversations are real, raw, and relevant. I am your host, Tara T. Stallings.
And I am Melody M. Manning. How y'all doing today?
It's been a day. It's been a day.
Yes. And we are tardy because of me, y'all. So I do apologize.
It's okay. For our listeners that's listening on our podcast, we thank you for tuning in. For our social media listeners, make sure that you like and share and like. This is going to be a very interesting topic. Of course, you can see the title, relationships, family, parents, and the hard conversations.
Yes.
So let's get into it.
Where do we start at? Well, we were talking about this because this one can be a hard one, but it can be a good one. Mm-hmm. Also. It can be necessary. And I had a conversation just today with my daughter, which made me really think about some things, the conversations that we have sometimes. And as parents, they may be a little uncomfortable for us, and we have to come outside of ourselves to be able to listen to what's going on and to be able to deal with what may be going on. So that brought about a lot of conversations with a lot of other things, background, things that at times we avoid. Those hard conversations. And those hard conversations are necessary because in those conversations, you can have forgiveness. You can have hope. You can have deliverance.
Yes.
in those conversations on both ends or all parties. Because sometimes there may be more than one person. It may actually be a group that needs to have a conversation. So we want to talk about that a little bit, because I feel in these days and times with everything that's going on, and when I say with everything that's going on, we are with the COVID-19. We've had time to spend time with ourselves and to think about some things, and some things you may like about yourself and some things you may not like about yourself. And it may have brought up some traumas, probably, may have surfaced during this time. And even in my reading, I found that as a society, with everything that's going on, and as far as mental health, we are in basically a crisis right now. It's not being talked about a whole lot, but the suicide rate has increased. Domestic violence has increased during this time. Depression has increased. People are showing symptoms of PTSD during this time. And a lot of people think that's only a military term, but no.
Post-traumatic stress.
So anytime you have trauma, you could be in that state. So we're gonna talk about
Yes, let's talk
all of
about
that today.
Yes.
We're gonna tackle that because we need to
Heal.
heal. We really do. We need to heal. You may need to have a conversation, be the conversation starter.
Mm-hmm.
How do you even start those conversations? What do you do during those conversations? Because, there may be some anger, there may be some sadness, there may be, different emotions during those conversations.
I've experienced, and just throughout life, a lot of times when you said the word anger, you have so many people that are angry with their parents, angry with their siblings, angry with an ex-husband or an ex-wife or their children or brother or sister, cousin, auntie, so on. And I always say this: your feelings that you have are real, but are they true? And when I say that, because we have feelings, whatever feeling you're having, it's a real feeling, but it may not be a feeling that's based on the whole truth. It may be a feeling that's based on your perception of that truth or that situation, causing you to harbor unforgiveness, harbor fear, harbor anxiety, resentment, and so on, so many other feelings. When we are dealing with people in the different dynamics that people deal with and that makes up a person, we have to understand that there's always, this is what the street calls it, it's always a backstory.
Mm-hmm.
There's always issues that you don't know about that the person may have experienced, good, bad, or indifferent, that they are not dealing with or dealing with, that cause them to react or respond in the way that they did in the past or currently are doing now. So we have to be able to look at the entire dynamics of the person, the personality, the situation, the event, and so on. But oftentimes what we do is we just take what we see. We take that moment and we paint a picture of emotions that can be detrimental to us as a person and to the relationships that we build and people that we come in contact with in life through our life journey.
Yeah. And that's true. And sometimes we can look at situations and we can form our own thoughts on that situation, but it may not be what we're looking at all. But we have formed our thoughts on it and perceived it as one thing, and that may not actually be what it is. And and later on you can learn different, and it can really shock you. And that's why it's so good communication, though, that line of communication. So I really want to go into this so people can actually understand lay terms what we're talking about. Let's say this. You know how sometimes we have looked at and we do it now, especially with social media, because social media is controlled content.
Say that again.
Controlled content. I say that all the time because we control what we put on social media. And when you have somebody that it appears, because all you're seeing is them happy, you see all of their wins, you never see the lows, you never see the losses or whatnot. We perceive them as a person as they're always winning. They're just choosing not to share it all.
Yes.
So we look at that person, we have a perception of that person that we think, oh, they got it going on, they always winning, they got this, and whatever they're doing is working. And blah. But in all actuality, though, that backstory, that behind the scenes, you're not seeing it. So if, we had lines of communications where we were connecting with a person, talking with a person, then we can see them for who they are. And a lot of times we don't do that. And then we also listen to what another person has perceived of a person.
Yes.
And that goes from, an instance of someone saying, oh, they did this and that and that, and this and this and this and that. That may have been their experience, but may not have been the full, true experience of that person. And now they've told another person, and the other person, is walking around carrying a dislike, a bad taste for a person that they don't even know, because they haven't had their own experience with them. So sometimes you have to sit down and have those conversations, well, hey, how you doing? Let me get to know you from yourself. And, I always say there's an A, B, and a C to a story. His version, her version, and then the version that actually happened, And that's not just with a him and a her, that could be with a her and a her. However, there's an A, B, C, her version, the other person's version, and then the version of what actually happened. But we both perceived it in our own individual way. If that makes sense.
Oh, it does. Yes.
So we have to talk to people, get to know people. And sometimes you do have to ask the other person, well, what is your, what is your part in the story?
Especially, and I think I forgot to put culture on it, in the Black culture. We don't like to talk.
We don't.
We like to assume and formulate our own version of how someone else is when you never ask. I remember my sister-in-law shared this with me a few years back, and it was an eye-opener for me, because I don't care how much training you have, when you deal with loved ones, sometimes training goes out the door. When it's a soft spot in you, a soft spot, I don't care. You can be a life coach, you can be a counselor, it doesn't matter. You can be trained when it's a close family member. And we have this in our mind that they should know better. We call that distorted thinking. They should know better. But what happens is, because of our emotions, all of what we have been taught goes out the door sometimes. So I was having a conversation with her, and I was, upset, ranting. And she said, you know what? I understand what you're saying. She said, but I had to learn this, and it freed me. She said, you're assuming that this person could have did this and should have did that. She said, but do you know what they were dealing with? And that's the part that we never consider. We look at a person and we formulate our own opinion about how they feel, how they should act, what they're doing, what they're not doing, but we never ask them. We never ask the person, well, when you said or did A, B, C, or D, what was going on with you? And that goes back to conversations. We don't want to ask the hard questions. We don't want to have the hard conversations, because it's easier to perceive what we want to perceive, so we can stay in our unhealthy anger, frustration, feelings, instead of asking the questions or having the conversations. And I can hear people say, well, what if you having a conversation with with a person and they're not listening to you? They're gonna, it's gonna end up in an argument. My response to that is learn how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, especially, well, that's with everybody, not just Black people, with everybody, we conversate in attack mode.
Not to listen.
Not to listen. We approach a person and we attack them on, you did this and you didn't do this and this and you attack them. And anytime you attack someone, they immediately go on the defense.
Correct.
Whether what you're saying is right or wrong, immediately when you come in attack mode, they immediately go into defense mode. And then once they're in the defense mode, they're going to attack you. So you're not going to have that conversation. A conversation is asking questions to get answers, not asking questions to fit your narrative of what you thought it was.
And I'm going to say this. Most of the time when it's hard to have those conversations and people automatically go into the defense, the attack mode, is because they don't want to be held accountable for their part in something. And we have to get to a point where you can be accountable, because let's be fair, you have to be accountable for your action and everything. So when someone comes to talk to you and you're listening, you have to listen with an open mind as to the role that you may have played.
Because we all have a role to play.
We all have a role, be it a good role or a bad role. We've all played a role in it. So we have to be accountable for the role that we played. A simple conversation sometimes will solve a whole lot of things.
A lifelong,
a lot of things.
Of misunderstanding.
Yes, you could be missing out on the ability to be able to learn something. As I said, to be delivered. Stop generational curses.
Yes.
Break generational curses, forgiveness. Those are the type of things that you may never truly experience by not having a conversation. So even with those hard conversations, they can be with your children, they can be with a parent, your parents, a spouse or whatnot. So you have to open your ears and be able to listen to what they're saying, because you could be missing out on some important relationships for the simple fact that you are not listening to somebody else's feelings. We have to acknowledge other people's feelings because they're truly genuine feelings. You can't say, oh, just get over it. It ain't that way. Right. No, that's what they feel in that moment, because even you telling somebody else to just get over it, you've been in a position where you wanted somebody to hear your heart, to hear your heart and what was going on. So you have to be able to listen to other people. And when we were talking about, listening and forming an opinion of a person, that plays a big role. And I say within the family dynamic, because there your emotions are a little bit, more heightened. when you say that training and everything could go out the window because it's family.
Yes.
And we have certain stipulations we place on family. Family's not supposed to hurt you.
Yes.
Family's not supposed to do this to you. Your family, you would never think family would put you in certain positions, but family is still there. They're human.
They're human. And my Bible, I'm sorry, you guys, the comments are not on. My Bible tells me that the hurt comes from the inside of the house,
Mm.
not from the outside.
Because that's a different type of hurt. It
That's
comes from the inside.
Yeah, it's a different, it's a total different kind of hurt. It's a total different kind of betrayal when it's someone in the house. If someone in the house betrays you, stabs you in the back, you hurt worse than someone in the street because you don't have a connection with that person that's an outsider.
Sure.
So it's a different type of hurt, and we're not talking about it. And I want to say this because we say to have those conversations, learn how to have a conversation, because it's so often most people don't know how to have a real conversation. They listen to answer and not listen to learn and listen to understand. But you have those people that are stubborn, that are stubborn, and you have to prepare a person that that you have experience with, that that's stubborn, for that hard conversation. And then be aware that you may not get but so far with that conversation, because a conversation is between two willing parties.
Mm-hmm.
The parties have to be willing to come to the table and be vulnerable with their truths. And that's not always easy, especially when you have pride, pride that has creeped in. You have parents that, not all parents, but some parents believe that because they are the parent, it's certain conversations that you should not have with them. And it's just not true. It may have happened when you were 10 and now you're 50. Well, guess what? You may still be affected by what was said or done at 10. And if you don't get a resolve, you're going to still be affected at 60 and 70.
Mm-hmm.
So it's imperative that we have those conversations with the person. Well, I guess you said, well, what if the person is not there? Well, then you role play. We call it role play. You get a chair, you sit down, and you have the conversation with that person, and that way you are able to release. But you have to have a conversation that's objective, not subjective. So objective means you have to be open to the what ifs that other person may have been going through. Even though we say a person should know better, they shouldn't have said certain things. Like again, I said that's distorted thinking. We call that distorted thinking because, but when it's in-house, that's the first thing we say. They should have known better. And I always ask this question. I had to learn to ask this question: what makes a person should know better?
Mm. That's a good one.
What makes a person should know better? Just because you know better, it doesn't necessarily mean that the other person knew better. Because we know we should do a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do we always do
No.
those things? Because there's a difference between knowing and understanding.
A very big difference. I'm trying to get my thoughts together because you understand why I can't.
Yes.
But, we just have to, when you're having those conversations, go into those conversations with knowing you have to kind of kick out what you think should be said. Because that's where we get messed up sometimes in those conversations. you know, because I've caught myself sometimes, you know, and I could be talking to somebody and I say, well, you should have done this. You should have said this. This is what I expected you to say. But what you think they should say or what you expect them to say may not be the truth in it. So we do have to go into it with an open mind to listen, to actually listen to what the person is saying. And take out what we think they should be saying. Because most of the time when we are stuck in what we think they should be saying, you don't get any resolve.
You never get
because you stuck in what you think they should be saying. And that may not be what they need to say. And that may not be the truth of the whole situation. So when I'm gonna say parent children, when parents and children are having conversation, I'm gonna say grown children, because they're at that point, they're grown, they're able to process something, they're able to say some things that they may have not been able to say when they're a child. But let's be actual, they're still stuck in that little girl or that little boy because it's still there and they feel that they need to say it. And I found a lot of time parents don't know how to listen to their children when they're in those situations and they're talking to them. Because more than likely, if you actually listen during that time, you can hear the little child in your child.
Yes.
And at that point I'm gonna say it's critical that you allow that little child to express what they need to express at that point. Because if you do not, they're still trapped in that child. And if they've got children, at some point, what they experienced or learned, they're going to pass on to their children, or who are then at that point going to be trapped in something. And those are, when I say those generational curses, we've got to break those. And in order to do that, you've got to allow a person to be able to express, whether it's something we don't want to hear. We've got to be able to allow them to express it. And in that, and even if you have a spouse, we have to allow our spouses to be able to express. It may not be what you want to hear. It may not. And I'm going to say this, you know, if we allow our spouses to be themselves with us, a lot of times when it comes to infidelity or whatnot, you could stop it before it happens.
If you have a conversation.
If you have a conversation and you allow your spouse to be themselves and the freedom to be themselves with you. Now, a lot of people gonna say, no, that ain't, you know. But yeah, I'm gonna say this. Let me add a disclaimer. Some gonna cheat because that's just who they are. You know,
they just
they just gonna cheat because that's just who they are. But if you're in a healthy, I'm gonna say a healthy relationship, and you and your spouse, you have to allow them that freedom to be. You may not want to hear from your spouse that, hey, you know what, I saw such something. You know, I even thought about you. That's something hard
to listen to.
That's really, you know, but you gotta allow them to be them.
And I would even add this, you know, when having conversations with other people, the first conversation you need to have, the true conversation, is with yourself. Most of us don't have the conversation with ourselves. We lie to ourselves so much that when we conversate with ourselves, it's from those lies that you have formulated and you've been telling yourself for years and years and years. We have a question. So what are some things you can do to train your mind not to be in attack mode all the time? If your mind is in attack mode all the time, you need to start with you. It's not the other person. It's you. And the reason I say that, because it's something inside of you that you have this mistrust, aggression, some faulty foundations, that if you're in attack mode all the time, most of the time it's because you're not trusting other people. If you're not trusting other people, it may be because I use this this analogy, the man in the mirror, Michael Jackson, because you need to be able to trust yourself. Now, in relationships, whether it's family, friends, intimate, whatever, yes, trust can be broken, but you don't carry that into the next relationship, because you have to heal first before you go into another relationship, because it's not fair for you to take your mistrust, your brokenness into another relationship, and it could be business, let's say business, because somebody else burnt you or did something wrong to you, that you carry that in there and you always on attack mode looking for someone to do wrong. That says that it's some inner work, and I put this on, it's the inner enemy inside of you that's against you. It's not the people outside, because people are going to be people. People are going to be people, and a person can only do to you what you allow them to do. Now, if you are giving and doing from your heart, and they take it and they misuse it, that's not a reason for you to have a hardened heart. Because when you were doing it, if you were doing it from the right place, even if they took your mistrust, because see, that's their issue, that's not your issue. So we have to always look at ourselves first. So often we look at, again, the other person. We look at what the other people around us have done to us. And I'm not saying that you're not warning having your emotions, your feelings from that, but it's what we do to ourselves. Because the question was, how can you retrain your mind not to be on attack mode? Be ye therefore transformed by the renewing of your mind. You have to renew your mind and how you think, how you perceive, how you want to be. You can't control how others are, but you can control what you put in. If you're always putting in, oh, somebody's out to get me, somebody's gonna try to jack me, somebody's gonna do that because so-and-so did it, and so-and-so did it, and so-and-so did it, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna get what you're thinking. You're gonna get, because you're putting that energy out. You're thinking already, oh, I got to be on my guard with this person because they may be trying to use me. Well, if you putting that energy out, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get used.
and let me say this: it's draining on you as a person. Because I'm gonna say this: just imagine if I came in here, because basically, let's say I got a trust issue. Something happened somewhere to cause me to have trust issues. Not maybe just with one person, but maybe with a group of people.
Right.
I'm just going to throw out some hypothetical names. Okay. Let me say this. Hypothetical names. Let's say it's John, there's Tony, there's Ralph, there's Mike. Okay. All of them, I at some point did something that caused me to have some form of trust issue. Okay. I got Poe Stanley over here. When I come in the room to talk to Stanley about something that we need to have a conversation on, and it involves trust, I'm bringing all them others. They stepping in the room with me. So when I sit down, they got a chair too. It's no longer just me and Stanley. So when you say you in attack mode, that's because you got all them other people sitting in the room with you. You're not only conversating with the person that you should be talking to, really you conversating with all them other folks, these imaginary folks that's in that
Yes.
room with you. And that's why it's hard to have a resolve,
Mhm.
because you're not only looking at the person that's in front of you, you dealing with all of those past hurts
Yes.
that
Yes.
led to you having trust
Mhm.
issues or led to you being hurt in so many other ways, broken trust, infidelity, so
Mhm.
many different things that you can't deal with what's in front of you or one person, because you got all these other people, and when you
Mhm.
talking to them, you're not really talking to them, you're talking to all the other people.
Yes. Yes. That is
So what
true.
you got to do before you can even have, to train yourself to have a conversation with that one person, you're going to have to deal with all your issues from them other people, because you don't want to bring them into the room.
That's right. That is so true. But we don't want to have those conversations. Most people don't want to have those conversations. They just want to put the blame on everybody else.
Well, it's a title for that.
They put the blame on everyone else. Every person plays a part.
Mhm.
Every person plays a part. I'm not talking about if somebody did something to you when you were a child. We're not talking about that. We're talking about as an adult, teenager, adult. Every person plays a part, and it's up to you, the individual, to address your own emotions. It's so easy to point the finger and say, well, they did this and they did that and they did this and they did that and they did this and they did that. They did that. And all the, but we never deal with us. I'm reminded of when me and my ex-husband went through the hell. I'm gonna call it the hell that I went through. The hell that I went through. When we separated, me having a relationship with God, let me say that, because he did not have a relationship with God. I don't know if he has one now, but he did not have a relationship with God, not church, with God. And after everything transpired, I was, praying and meditating and, praying for other people in the midst of all of this. And I was reminded, I was quickened, the Spirit kind of reminded me and said to me, you were in pride, even though he did some things that were not right. And I did some things too. Let me just say that, because it takes two to tango. But I felt like he did some horrible things and said some horrible things. And because I know the word of God and I knew it then, I got convicted of operating out of pride. Because, and this was the conversation, this was what, the revelation that was given to me. Well, you have all this word. You can pray for everybody else. Why didn't you pray for him? Why didn't you pray for him? Even and let me just give you a little backstory. I knew I was leaving. I had got revelation that we were gonna be together, whatever. And it was gonna be a horrible time when it happened, and it was. But and I was like, what do you mean? Well, because you had a relationship with me, you never stopped to pray for his relationship with me, so that he could build a relationship with me, because you were so high on your word. And I got convicted of operating in the spirit of pride because, he went, this church talk. He wasn't saved. He was out of the world. He was this and that and this, and I'm saved and this and this. Well, if you saved, you're supposed to pray for those that are lost. Mm-hmm. Even if it is your husband that's a sinner, that's acting like a sinner, because sinners act like sinners act, because they sinners. So, and when you know better, if you're supposed to be have a relationship, not with church, but with God, you're supposed to be interceding for your husband. But oftentimes, and like I said, I got convicted myself, and I've seen it because the first thing the woman does is look down on the man because he's not in position. He wasn't in position when you married him. Just because you got in position, you are all right with him when he wasn't in position when you got married to him.
She talking, y'all. So, I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah. So then when you find Jesus, you find your Jesus or somebody Jesus or something, you find something, your church or whatever, you expect him and everybody else to line up with what you found. God had grace on you, but we don't want to have grace on anyone else. And that's where pride steps in. Or we try to use control, manipulation, what I call witchcraft, to try to control people into doing things that you want to do in the name of Jesus, so that you need to get your life together. And we make God a mock because people use words like, well, God don't like that. He didn't like it when you did it. But he had grace on you. He waited on you. But it seems like a lot of times, I'm just talking to whoever I'm talking to, because I use my situation, because I'm transparent, because I got convicted about that, and I didn't realize that I was operating out of the spirit of pride, because I had a relationship with God. I could hear God. I heard it when I was a sinner. Didn't mean I was doing right. And after I got saved, when I was sinning, I still heard him. And he still had grace on me. But I could convict him because, I'm so holier than that. And that's pride. Now, I don't know who that was for.
We might need to do a show on that, because,
know who that was for.
We need, because there are, women. And that happens a lot. And a lot of women leave their husbands,
Now, I don't know who that was for.
As a result of that very thing, not saying everybody needs to stay with their husband,
right? Because
there could be different situations, but that does happen a lot, and I think we might need to do a whole show and talk about that, because not only with spouses, that can also move over into your circle of friends. Yes, also. You get saved, you change your lifestyle, and if your friends, they're not there yet, we ready to dismiss them.
Yes. Now some of them you need to dismiss.
You should have dismissed.
Before you got saved, you should have dismissed some of those friends before.
Yeah. But I believe we really need to talk. We need to talk about that also. And a lot of times, I'm
having a hot flash. I don't have my fans, so go ahead.
When we were when you said that and whatnot, you have to, let me go this route, because I want to get this out there. This is something I mentioned to you earlier, and you talking about relationships, women. I'm going to say women, because I'm a woman. I've heard it all. I've experienced it all. Be mindful if you have a man and every one of his exes was crazy. Not saying that some women ain't crazy, because there are some crazy women out there, But when you're dealing with a man and everybody was crazy, it was everybody's fault. They can never own up to their part in it, or they can never say anything good. Because let's be real, we've all experienced bad relationships, you know. But even in the bad ones, I can think of some good things
Yes.
about the bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and I'll say, well, you know what? Yeah, they may have did that, but you know what? They sure did this, or they taught me this. Not the bad stuff that they taught me, but you know, they did do this. So when you find someone, and at first I directed this to women, and it can be directed to men, but listen closely. If they can never say anything good, I'm about to this point now. You better run. Because then you can start, and you laugh, but really it truly is, because then it lets you know what type of person you are dealing with. And I'm gonna tell you that narcissistic right about now is at an all-time rise. I know we use the word and you hear it a lot.
But most people don't even know what narcissistic is.
Yeah, because you can be deep into something and not even know that you're dealing with a narcissist. But
they're very manipulative.
Very manipulative. And it's going to be all about them.
All the time.
But, you know, so just be mindful. And sometimes, you know, I know a person that they told me, well, I talked to their ex. I contacted, they were getting ready to marry the man, and they said, well, I talked to their ex because I needed to know, you know, what happened. And at first I was like, you crazy. I wouldn't want to talk to the ex. You know, why would I need to talk to the ex? But these days you may need to, because it could save you, or it can allow you to know why that person is the way that they are. Again, opening the doors up for conversation.
And family members.
And family members.
We don't ask family. We get in relationships with people. People get in relationships with people, and they never ask their family members about the personality of the person. They never ask, because you know, when you meet somebody, you put your good face on. They never ask them about their personality and how were they growing up. What about their temper? Because people gonna put on the good part, and they can hide it for a long time. So you know, we need to,
because all that's important. Because a lot of times we're talking about difficult, hard conversations. A lot of couples don't have those hard conversations.
They just think everything's going.
They in the flow of the goodness,
and everything is going to fall through. No, you need to have those conversations, because what if we never think? You don't plan for the bad, you plan for the good, but you strategize, okay, for the what ifs. You have a good plan for your life, but you have to put in, well, what if this happens? What are we going to do? What if the finances don't work right? What if somebody gets sick? What if somebody, you know, can't walk anymore? What are you going to do then? We don't have those conversations.
We don't. And those are very, very important conversations.
Yes. I do couples counseling, and I always ask this question, because everybody, when you date and you engage, you're so in love. Oh my gosh, it's just my soulmate, and you're so in love. And I asked him, the first thing I asked, I said, okay, you so in love. I said, so let's make a scenario. You get married, 6 months down the road, he's in a bad car accident, or she's in a bad car accident, and she's not able to, or he's not able to function in the capacity that you know them to function in, sexually, emotionally. They can't walk, and you have a quadriplegic. You just got married 6 months, and you're 25 and 30. You got the rest of your life to be with this person. Are you gonna stay? Do you love them enough to stay? And you know the answer that I usually get, I don't know. I don't know if I want to be in a relationship like that for the rest of my life. Well, you're not in love. You're in lust. You're not in love. You're in love. You're in the goosebump stages. You're in those goosebump stages, because you don't know. Because what if it's you? What if it's you that's in a bad car accident and they have to take care of you? Do you want them to say, well, I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life? These are questions you have to ask.
You have to ask these questions, really do. Because I was dating someone, and you know, I feel when you dating people, that's the time to see, and you need to see them in all environments because that's important. You need to see them in all environments, and you need to ask those questions. If you got to have conversations with scenarios, have those conversations because I asked somebody, I said, well, what if it comes to a point? And this is a good question, men to ask of women too. And you know, if you are not able to financially, you're not in your same financial standing. Let me say that. Because anything can happen. Anything can happen. Married 18 years, been there, done it. Anything can happen. You don't know what may change in your life. How would you expect a woman to handle it? You hopefully you would want a woman that'll stand by your side.
Yes.
But let's be realistic. A lot of people won't. Be it a man, if a woman she's not able to bring in financially what she wants, they out the door. They checked out. Because the first
because some people they marry only because of financial stability
and where they're at currently. Currently, they're not thinking long term. And you know, of course, you're not looking for anything to happen, but you have to be realistic because this is the thing called life. You don't know what's going to be thrown at you. So you have to, that's the importance of having the hard conversations. Now, we did have one more quick question, and I think we can answer it before our time is up, Tara. Do you think narcissists have narcissistic parents?
Yes and no. You do have, it's just like any other trait. You do have people that are narcissistic that have parents that had those traits, but then you have people that are narcissistic that have parents that don't have that trait. Because, okay, so let's look at it this way. When you go to the doctor, they ask you for your family history. Now, they want to know about your blood pressure and all that, your mom, your dad, your grandmama, your granddaddy, all of those people. Well, your parents may not have high blood pressure, but their parents may have it. So when you talk about narcissistic, the person may be narcissistic. Their parents may not have been narcissistic, but the granddaddy or the grandmama two generations before may have been. They got their traits. So, but even with that, being narcissistic, you don't have to be narcissistic. Because see, you grow into narcissism. See, you can be transformed because all of us can be narcissistic if we allow ourselves to be, because it's all about me. You know, and you can be evil, you can be manipulative, because we've all been evil, we've all been manipulative, we all have lied. And if something, your back is against the wall, you still may do it. So, and that's part of narcissistic traits. So yes, that's a yes and no answer. Yes, you can have a person, a spouse, a friend that's narcissistic, and yes, the parents could be that way. I know some people that those parents, they may not be to the same degree, because remember, with each generation, it grows. It grows. It's like passing down, like an avalanche. As it grows, it grows. As it goes down the hill, it grows. It develops more. Each generation is passed down, it develops more. It grabs hopes to what the generation before gave them, and then they get their new stuff, and then they keep passing it down. If they don't recognize that what it is and that it can be changed, your personality, because narcissistic is not a part of a personality. It's not a personality trait. It's a personality defect. That you can change your thinking and change who you are and change your ways.
Now, I think parents can play a part in forming
Oh yeah.
a narcissistic,
Mhm.
person, and a lot of parents don't realize that. And then we're gonna wrap this up. I just want to say this because if you never teach your child that, because you have parents, it's all about the child. They'll back their child. It's never my child's fault. My child is never wrong. You could be creating a monster.
A huge monster. My kids will tell you today, and they can get mad, and I don't care. I'm not going to uphold you in your wrong.
Yeah.
I am not going to uphold you in your wrong. That's one thing. Lily B, that was my mama, y'all. And I used to be so mad with her. I wouldn't care. She did not uphold me. If I was wrong, I was wrong. She didn't care who told her. She didn't wait to say, get home and tell me, no, you wrong. And she'll tell me I was wrong. And I got that from her. No, you wrong. So, yeah.
So we did that. Well, this was a good one.
This was a very good show today. We thank you guys for asking questions. Make sure you like and share and like. Follow me if you're not. If you're watching. Make sure you follow me from my personal page. And we will see you guys. And make sure you follow Melody and her personal page and her business page, Inspired by Melody. And we will see you guys next week. Remember, this is Talk Therapy, where our conversations are real, raw, and relevant. Having technical difficulties. So, see you guys. Thanks for listening.